to get us going, I'm going to call on Wamkele Mene from the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. And Wamkele, I'd like to ask you to please just sort of share with us your assessment of the impacts of COVID-19 on your implementation plans and the implementation plans of the African Continental Free Trade Area, and where you see e-trade and paperless customs, fitting into that agenda and your immediate goals, and sort of round that off by sort of helping us understand where you think the African and the global private sector and international organizations can assist fast track the adoption to unlock those benefits. So the floor is yours, Wamkele.
Very much, Hubert, for inviting us to participate in this webinar. I'm looking forward to the discussion and to hear the views of everybody in the panel. We, of course, have been very negatively affected by COVID-19. As you said, we have existing a deadline from heads of states to operationalize and start trading on the 1st of July 2020, which was a deadline that was set by the heads of states last year in July. However, the world is a different place now, as we all recognize. Significant. The disruption to government's normal programs has been significant. All governments across the African continent are actively engaged in trying to fight the pandemic. And even the trade ministers themselves, many of them across the continent, are focusing on finding solutions that will mitigate the effect of COVID-19 on the domestic economy, small, medium enterprises, and so on and so on. But the overriding objective of all governments, as I see it, across the African continent, is to save lives and to contain the contagion. And so it would appear that deadline of 1st of July trading under the AFCFTA may not be possible. But I must stress that it's not my decision. It will have to be the decision of the Assembly of Heads of States as to if there is a postponement, when we postpone the new trading date to. Obviously, conditions will have to be ideal, back to some semblance of normalcy before we can, before countries can be able to trade. So that's on the political considerations. And as I said, the heads of states will take everything into account, and I'm sure very soon they will pronounce. However, it seems that it's not going to be possible to trade on the 1st of July. The economic impact on Africa in general is quite severe. We estimate that we will lose the services sector, particularly when you look at travel, tourism, hospitality industry, losses of up to 20 to 30% this year alone. We know that the global economy will shrink to the tune of 2%. Which is a loss of growth of over $3 trillion this year alone. And the ILO has estimated that there will be over 5 million jobs that are lost, and increasing up to 26 million jobs by the end of the year. So the economic impact is quite severe. Africa is over 50% of our exports go to our export market are the countries that are already very, very negatively affected by the pandemic. So our export market has dried up in a sense, which then places a challenge on us to relook at our supply chains and more importantly, to look at how we accelerate our program for the industrialization of Africa so that we're able to be more self-sufficient in terms of our export base and our export markets, but at the same time, we remain connected to the global economy. So we have a challenge in that sense. Now, the question that you posed on digitization of trade, the African Union and UNECA have been working very closely on thinking about what the next e-commerce disciplines or set of obligations we should think about, and disciplines and obligations that lay the basis for more efficient trade. And we are starting in the next few months, of course, COVID-19 permitting, we will start negotiations on e-commerce and digitization to look at how, as I say, how we can make trade more efficient. We have been also looking at some of the models that have been presented by the WTO, particularly on rules of origin and digitization of rules of origin, digitization of customs procedures. I think it's a very important pillar of our work as we go forward, because I think if anything that COVID-19 has demonstrated is it has placed digitization and e-commerce at the center of the global economy, particularly when you look at how to mitigate the crisis by way of, we now know there are things like digital pharmacies, remote patient visitations, and all of these things are enabled by digitization. And so we think that there is scope in the area of trade, whether it's trade in goods, trade in services, there is significant scope for us as a Secretariat to partner with international partners to develop innovations, to develop new ways of facilitating trade in Africa. Because when you look at Africa's the connectivity of Africa to broadband internet, wireless services, it is growing year on year. Africa has the largest and the fastest growing penetration of mobile telephony in the world. And of course, wireless internet enabled platforms as a result of that. And so the point I make is that we see a great deal of scope to innovate and to work with the private sector in innovation and finding solutions, digital solutions that will make trade more efficient, and that will, of course, make our work much easier. So the objective of the Secretariat will be to work with as I say, with the private sector to find these solutions. We don't have all the answers. I think the private sector can help. The World Customs Organization certainly has been doing very innovative work in this area, and I look forward to working with everybody to develop these new methods. Thank you.
Doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.